My son was dying, and she was dancing on a yacht like the world owed her applause. I watched the footage twice. No sound, just silent shots of champagne flutes clinking, bodies swaying under LED lights, ocean glittering behind them like a damned music video. She was wearing a gold bikini and heels like she had something to prove. Probably did. Two men had their arms around her waist. Neither was her husband. The video came from one of those anonymous friendlies, the kind of person who won't admit to enjoying the mess but always has a front row seat. Sent it straight to my phone at 3:12 a.m. with the message, "Thought you should see this, Mr. Carson." She was supposed to be by my son's side. He was 2 weeks into his third round of chemo, hooked up to machines in a private suite at Cedar Mount. He had nausea so bad, he couldn't lift his head, could barely talk, but when he did, it was about her. "Make sure Lauren's okay," he kept saying. "She's under so much stress." I didn't have the heart to tell him the truth. Not yet. My name's Jack Carson, retired steel contractor. Divorced twice, widowed once. My son, Caleb, is 34 years old, owns 3 companies, and has a net worth north of $220 million, depending on what the market's doing. Built his empire on high-end car imports, flipped half the exotic vehicles on the East Coast before he turned 30. Sharp kid, sharper instincts. Cancer doesn't care about any of that. He married Lauren 5 years ago. She was pretty, polished, perfect for the camera. The kind of woman who could walk into a room and make everyone look twice. But she never fooled me. I didn't trust her the first time she shook my hand with dry fingers and a fake smile. Now here she was on a yacht off the coast of Miami, living like she just hit the lottery, which, in a way, she had. Half of everything Caleb owned would be hers if he didn't make it. I shut off the phone and stared at the dark ceiling of my hotel suite, eyes wide open, jaw tight. The sun came up without asking me how I felt about it. At 7 a.m., I was at the hospital. Caleb looked pale, sunken, tubes in his arms, machines clicking and blinking. But his eyes lit up when I walked in. "Hey, old man," he rasped. "Morning," I said, forcing a smile. I pulled up the leather chair beside his bed. "How's Lauren?" he asked. I paused. She said she needed a break. Went to Miami for a few days. He nodded slowly, swallowing that truth like spoiled milk. "That makes sense. She's been handling a lot." "Sure," I said. "Lot to handle." He turned his head away and looked out the window. "I don't want her to suffer, Dad. If anything happens to me, I want her to be okay." That right there was the moment. The betrayal wasn't even mine, and still it landed like a punch to the gut. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "You ever wonder if she'd be okay a little too fast?" Caleb frowned, turned back to me. "What do you mean?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I spent the next few days collecting. Quiet calls to my guy in Tampa. Hired a private firm out of Atlanta. The kind that doesn't advertise and doesn't ask a lot of questions. In 72 hours, I had photos, timestamps, credit card records. Lauren had spent $17,800 in one weekend. Spa treatments, clubs, dinners, 2 new handbags, and a $6,000 bracelet charged to Caleb's black Amex. One of the men from the yacht, some B-grade real estate influencer named Chase Monroe, posted a selfie with her in the background. She was laughing. Caleb was throwing up blood. The moment came on a Tuesday. I walked into his room, dropped the folder on his lap. He looked at it, then up at me. "What's this?" "Proof," I said. He didn't open it right away. Just stared at it, like he already knew. Maybe he did. Maybe he'd been pretending not to see it. After a long beat, he opened it. Page by page. No words. Just the slow grinding sound of a man watching his future collapse in high-res color. When he got to the last page, he said nothing. Just closed the folder and handed it back. "She's done," he said, voice flat. "She's dead to me." I leaned back in my chair. "Good. Because I have a plan." He looked at me. There was something different in his eyes now. The soft edges were gone. He didn't look sick anymore. He looked hungry. "You think I'm gonna die?" he said. "I think you better not," I said. "Because you and me? We're gonna burn her world to the ground." Caleb smiled, the first real smile in weeks. "Let's start with the accounts," he said. We did. That afternoon, Caleb made some calls. Transferred liquid assets, rerouted distributions, froze cards. He put a forensic accountant on everything she touched. She didn't notice at first. The money still showed up where it always did. She still had access to the joint account, but it was now capped, tracked, and draining into a shell corp Caleb controlled. The real punch wouldn't land until later. 2 weeks went by, then 3. Caleb's numbers stabilized. White cell count was up. CT scan showed the tumors had shrunk. One morning, Dr. Patel came in with a grin that cracked the clouds. "It's working," he said. "You're winning." Caleb looked at me. "You ready?" "Been ready since Miami," I said. He pulled out his phone and made the first real move. He told Lauren he was cured. And just like that, she came back. Lauren showed up 3 days later, wearing white like it was Easter Sunday. Her face was all apologies and concern, mascara perfectly smudged for effect. "Baby, I came as soon as I heard. I didn't know you were doing better. Oh my God, this is amazing." Caleb didn't hug her, didn't kiss her. He sat propped up in bed, for still hanging beside him like a silent witness. His hair was thinner, his skin paler, but his eyes? Ice cold. "You were gone," he said. "A long time." She blinked fast. I was a wreck. I couldn't handle seeing you like that. I was fighting for my life." "I know," she whispered, stepping closer. "And I couldn't bear to watch you slip away. I didn't want to remember you that way if what? If you didn't make it." Her voice cracked, Oscar-worthy, maybe even Emmy-nominated. Caleb didn't flinch. "Where do you stay in Miami?" She hesitated. "With Rebecca. You know, from the foundation. She has a condo on." "Wrong," he said. "Rebecca was in Bali." Lauren blinked. "You want to try again?" "Caleb, what is this?" He reached over, picked up a sleek leather binder from the table beside him, and handed it to her. She opened it. First page, a photo of her straddling Chase Monroe's lap. Second page, a hotel receipt in her name, Suite 11F, Fontainebleau. Third page, a transaction list with more red flags than a Chinese parade. She didn't make it past the fourth. "You went through my accounts?" she hissed. "No, I had professionals do it." Her mouth opened, closed. She turned to me. This is your doing." I smiled. "Only the beginning, sweetheart." Lauren looked back at Caleb. "Baby, I can explain." "I don't want to hear it," he said, voice like stone. "I've been dying for the past 6 months, and you were already living like I was gone. You want the lifestyle? Go live it. But not on my dime." She opened her mouth again, but Caleb held up a hand. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." And that was that. She left the hospital looking like someone just canceled Christmas. The next 48 hours were chaos. She called. She cried. She screamed through voicemail. Claimed it was all a mistake, a misunderstanding, a moment of weakness. Caleb didn't answer a single message. By the end of the week, she got the paperwork, divorce proceedings, asset evaluations, forensic breakdowns of her spending. It wasn't just about cutting her off. It was about exposure. Caleb's lawyer, a sharp guy named Flynn from Boston, filed motions to reclaim joint assets, dissolve LLCs under her name, and freeze any further transfers. Lauren's personal brand? Toast. The influencer deals, the sponsored trips, the designer collabs, they all evaporated when word got around that her money came from a husband she abandoned during chemo. And then came the tax audit. Turns out, her lifestyle didn't just cost Caleb. It had left a neat little trail of undeclared income. Gifts, perks, private payments from Chase Monroe and his friends. Flynn made sure the IRS got the right nudge. She was drowning, and we hadn't even started pouring water yet. Caleb was healing, day by day. Stronger, clearer. He sold one of his car showrooms, told people he was downsizing. Truth was, he was liquefying for the next phase. We started buying things Lauren loved. Her favorite boutique? Bought it and quietly restructured it. Her name was scrubbed from the website. Her perks revoked. Her club membership? Gone. The private Pilates studio she bragged about? Purchased under a holding company. Rates tripled. Her slot got accidentally canceled. Petty? Maybe. But that's what revenge tastes like when it's slow-cooked. One night, Caleb and I sat on the balcony of his downtown condo, the one she never liked because it didn't have coastal views. He lit a cigar, something he hadn't done since diagnosis. "I'm losing a lot of money, Dad," he said. I nodded. "Yeah, you are." He looked over. "Think it's worth it? Does it feel worth it?" He exhaled smoke and smiled. "Every damn penny." By the time the divorce finalized, Lauren was toxic. Her Instagram followers turned. Her sponsors ghosted her. She started selling bags on consignment. Moved into a condo she used to make fun of, called it sad beige energy. We could have stopped there. Should have, maybe. But Caleb wasn't done. He gave up the big house in Palm Beach, sold it below market just to dump it fast. He shut down 2 of his companies, fired half his staff. People thought he'd lost his mind. Truth was, he was clearing the deck. Then one day, he said, "Let's go for a drive." I assumed he meant the coast. Instead, we ended up in a small town 2 hours north. One of those blink-and-you-miss-it places with rusted gas signs and one bar. He pulled into a parking lot across from a hardware store. "See that building?" he said. "Yeah, I'm buying it." I squinted. "Why?" "It's clean. It's quiet. And she's not here." He was smiling again. Not the bitter kind. The real kind. Inside that building, there was a woman named Erin. 32. Ran a local bookstore and a community center. Blonde hair in a ponytail, jeans, flannel. Nothing fancy. Nothing fake. They'd met online, of all places. Quiet messages. Thoughtful replies. He hadn't even told her his last name until they'd met in person. She didn't care about the money. Didn't care about the cars. When he told her he was recovering from cancer, she held his hand and said, "So you've been fighting already. That's good. Means you've got the strength." That night, he said something I hadn't heard in a long time. "I think I'm going to be okay." 6 months later, he proposed with a simple band. No diamonds, no flash, just a promise. They moved into a small 2-bedroom house with a backyard and a lemon tree. Caleb sold the last of his shares in the import business. Started working at a garage. Real work, dirty hands, honest hours. Erin ran the bookstore. On weekends, they held open mic nights and movie screenings in the park. 1 year later, they had a baby boy. Named him Leo. And that was the real win. Lauren? Last I heard, she tried launching a podcast. Got 23 subscribers and one very public nervous breakdown on Twitter. She'd burned every bridge, spent every cent, and ended up exactly where she belonged. Broke. Alone. Forgotten. Caleb? He lost the money, yeah? But he found something better. Peace. And me? I just sit on the porch with my coffee, watching my grandson chase butterflies in the yard, thinking. Caleb had a scar on his chest now, thick and raised, right beneath his collarbone. Said it looked like a second mouth that never learned to speak. I told him it looked like a warning label. Don't mess with what survived fire. He laughed at that. Life in that small town didn't come with spotlights, but it came with peace. They bought a used Tacoma. No tint. No vanity plates. Erin made her own coffee every morning in a chipped mug that said, "Read more, judge less." The house had creaky floors, loud birds, and a little screen door that always needed fixing. Caleb swore he'd never be happier anywhere else. For 6 months, the world left us alone. Caleb worked at a small garage on Route 17, fixing busted trucks and leaky transmissions. I helped out on weekends, mostly sweeping up, pretending not to be in the way. Erin's bookstore became a local hangout. She hosted author readings, ran children's story hours, and sold secondhand paperbacks for the price of a sandwich. Then Chase Monroe opened his mouth. See, the real estate clown didn't know when to quit. With Lauren's fame fading, he needed drama to stay relevant. So he went on a podcast and called Caleb the dumbest millionaire in America. Said he faked his illness, manipulated his wife, and disappeared like a coward. That podcast, it went viral. Lauren popped back up like a bad rash, posting screenshots, hinting that she'd been emotionally manipulated by a very sick man. No names, of course. Just enough breadcrumbs for the public to follow. The wolves came howling again. Old reporters. New gossip sites. A few ex-employees Caleb had fired during the company downsizing chimed in. Said he was unstable. Said Erin was a gold digger. Said I was some mysterious fixer-type dad who probably used dirty money to make problems disappear. Caleb called me that night. "I'm not going back to that life," he said. "You won't have to," I told him. But I was lying. Because the thing about reputation is, it's like an unpaid invoice. Sooner or later, someone comes knocking. They found the garage. Paparazzi in cheap vans with long lenses. Some even tried offering employees money for dirt. The owner, a guy named Roy, wasn't having it. He put up a sign. No press. No gossip. No entry. Trespassers will be greased and towed. But you can only hold back the tide for so long. That Sunday, someone broke into Erin's store. Nothing stolen. Just shelves knocked over, books torn up, and a crude message spray-painted across the back wall. Gold digger's nest. She didn't cry. Erin didn't do tears in public. But her hands shook when she picked up a torn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. I cleaned up the mess while Caleb filed the police report. Small-town cops meant well, but they didn't have the tools or manpower to chase ghosts with Wi-Fi. I thought we were done with this, Caleb said that night, sitting on the porch, Leo asleep inside. Fame doesn't forget easy, I said. Not when it smells weakness. I should have stayed dead, he muttered. No, I said firm. You should start acting like you're alive. We stared into the dark for a while, listening to crickets and wind. Then Caleb said, what if I fight back? I smiled. Then it's time we open the vault. See, I hadn't been sitting around all year playing grandpa. While Caleb healed and rebuilt, I'd been collecting. I had folders, files, backups, and receipts. Years worth. The things Lauren thought were gone. The emails, the transfers, the NDAs she forced on Caleb's staff. Those were all sitting in a safe back in my condo. I drove back that night. For hours on the road, no music. Just thinking. By sunrise, I was home. By noon, I had a USB drive with everything we'd need to turn the lights back on in every corner Lauren and Chase had tried to hide. Back at Caleb's, I laid it all out on the dining table. Emails from Lauren's burner accounts. Transactions that linked Chase Monroe to 3 different shell companies, all tied to stolen funds. Photos of their meetings, location metadata, even timestamps that lined up with key withdrawals from Caleb's old accounts. He stared at it like it was a murder weapon. Which, in a way, it was. What do we do with it, he asked. We bury them, I said. Publicly. Permanently. He nodded. I called in a favor from a guy named Lucian, former journalist turned digital hitman. Not the kind that deals in blood, but the kind that drops truth bombs with surgical precision. We gave Lucian everything. No exaggerations. No fake stories. Just the hard, ugly truth. 3 days later, it hit. Headline on Medium. The billionaire's widow who spent his fortune before he died, except he lived. Followed by a full expose. Every lie. Every transaction. Every betrayal, sourced and cited. The internet flipped. The same crowd that called Caleb a coward started calling him a survivor. A fighter. The comment sections turned. The podcast that hosted Chase Monroe deleted the episode. Sponsors dropped him. One of his properties got vandalized. Lauren? She tried to go silent. Then tried to backpedal. Then, in a desperate move, went live on Instagram crying, claiming she was set up. The video was down in under an hour, but not before it racked up 2 million views and 1,000 parody memes. Aaron's bookstore? It got flowers. Dozens. People sent in donations. Someone made a children's corner sign that read, "The strongest place in town." Caleb didn't gloat. He didn't throw parties or post quotes about karma. He just went back to work. Quiet. Steady. Whole. 2 months passed. Then one night, Aaron handed him a letter. It was from Lauren. Inside was a single sheet of paper. I lost everything. Congratulations. No apology. No humility. Just bitterness and ink. Caleb burned it in the kitchen sink. Didn't say a word. And just like that, the chapter was closed. Not with a gunshot. Not with a car chase. Just with a match and a man who finally let go. Later that year, Leo turned 1. We held a small party in the backyard. Homemade cake. Dollar store balloons. One neighbor brought ribs. Another brought a ukulele and played off-key songs under the trees. Caleb looked around, paper plate in hand, frosting on his jeans. I spent $10 million on my wedding, he said. This costs $60 and feels 10 times richer. Aaron kissed his cheek. Because it's real. I sat in a folding chair, nursing a warm beer, watching the wind blow through the lemon tree. Thinking about Lauren, about all that glitter and plastic, about the kind of people who only show up when the lights are on. And thinking, if the fire doesn't kill you, it forges you. The thing about real peace is it doesn't show up all at once. It creeps in, quietly, like fog lifting after a storm. 2 weeks after Leo's birthday, Caleb fixed a '96 Bronco for a local farmer who paid him with fresh peaches and a promise. Aaron's bookstore hosted a poetry night for a retired high school English teacher. I spent most afternoons sanding down old furniture in the garage, pretending not to enjoy retirement. Things were good. Not just quiet good. Then came the letter from the bank. Caleb stood on the porch holding the envelope, jaw tight. They froze my old development account. He hadn't touched that fund in over a year, left it sitting out of reach, like a sealed box from a past life. Said it was blood money, from when Lauren had a hand in everything. We opened it together. Fraud review, the letter said. Pending investigation into suspicious transactions, account suspended indefinitely. That word, suspicious, lit a match in my head. Lauren wasn't done. She wasn't rich anymore, but she still had her lawyers, her petty claws, and apparently, one last bullet in her purse. The move wasn't about money. It was about dragging him back into the mud. One more shot to make his name stink. Caleb sat on the porch steps, rubbing his temple. Why won't she just let it go? I sat next to him. Because she's not done hurting. And people like that, they don't know how to lose. Only how to blame. He didn't say anything. Just stared at the gravel driveway, shoulders rising and falling like waves. Then he stood up. I'm going to fix this, he said. But not with lawyers. That night, Caleb started making calls. Quiet ones. Not to suits or journalists, but to friends he hadn't talked to in years. The ones who disappeared when the money did, but who owed him more than they remembered. Mechanics, shippers, warehouse guys, vendors he'd helped during the pandemic with no-strings loans. He wasn't asking for payback. He was building something. Within a week, we had a list. Contacts in 4 states. People who still respected his name. They didn't want headlines. They wanted work. A shot. Caleb gave it to them. The plan was simple. We'd build a new business. No investors, no flash, no social media. Just muscle, grit, and trust. He called it Lion Hall. A logistics company with no middlemen, no overpriced branding, just clean runs and honest numbers. The lion was for Leo. The hall was the work. I'm starting over, Caleb told me one morning. But this time, I'm building something no one can take from me. He sold his last sports car. Said if he wanted speed, he'd run. I wired him half of what I had left in savings. He didn't want it. I told him I didn't ask for permission. We bought 2 trucks. Used. One needed a new radiator. The other still had cigarette burns on the seats. Caleb and I fixed them both in 3 days. By the end of the month, Lion Hall had 3 contracts. All word of mouth. No website. No flyers. Just reliability and a phone number passed from one hand to another. Erin built a simple invoice system on a borrowed laptop. Leo played with her shoelaces while she typed. It was small, but it was working. And then Lauren tried to sue. She filed a civil complaint in Palm Beach County, claiming Caleb had hidden assets during the divorce, failed to disclose intellectual property, and emotionally coerced her into signing the settlement. Total damages sought, for $2 million. Caleb read the filing in silence. He didn't yell, didn't break anything, just exhaled through his nose and said, "It's her last swing." I looked at him. "You want to fight it?" "No," he said. "I want to end it." And that's when he did something I didn't see coming. He got in the truck and drove. 12 hours straight. Didn't tell Erin. Didn't tell me. Just left before sunrise and crossed 2 state lines. He showed up on Lauren's doorstep. Not with a lawyer. Not with press. Alone. I only know what happened because he told me after. She opened the door in a robe. The apartment was small, messy. Wine bottles in the sink. That glittery girl from the yacht? Gone. This version of Lauren looked like someone time forgot. He handed her a manila envelope. Inside, a full printout of the expose Lucian published. An affidavit from the shell company Chase Monroe used to funnel her gifts. Screenshots of her emails from 2021. "You go to court," Caleb said. "This becomes part of discovery. Everything." She stared at the papers. "I won't settle. I won't play quiet. You want to be famous again? Be careful what kind of famous." She tried to speak. He raised a hand. "We're done, Lauren. Forever." He turned around and walked away. 3 days later, her lawyer dropped the case. That was it. No judge. No trial. Just silence. And sometimes, that's louder than any verdict. After that, it was like the last crack in Caleb's foundation finally sealed. He moved different. Talked different. Carried himself like a man with nothing to prove and nothing to hide. Lion Hall picked up steam. Word traveled fast. Honest haulers are rare. By summer, we had 6 trucks on the road and a waiting list for more. Erin added a back room to the bookstore, turned it into a little office for dispatching routes and keeping books. Every Friday, we hosted cookouts behind the garage. Nothing fancy, just burgers, music, and a folding table with a cooler full of soda. Guys from the shop came. Families. Even the mayor once said he liked the community vibe. I watched Caleb at those cookouts. Saw the way he laughed with his crew, flipped burgers like a man who knew his worth didn't come from net worth. Erin would lean into him, Leo on her hip, and I'd think. She saved him. Not by fixing, just by staying. One night, I caught Caleb looking out over the yard, beer in hand, quiet smile on his face. You miss it? I asked. The money. He took a long pull and said, I don't miss what it made me. I nodded. That's good. But I do miss the garage doors that opened when I had it. That's the truth right there. It's not the yachts or watches or stupid magazine spreads. It's the way doors swing open without asking who you are when you've got enough zeros in the bank. We hit our first major snag in October. One of our clients, mid-size manufacturer out of St. Louis, defaulted on an invoice. 17 grand, gone. Just vanished into paperwork and broken promises. Caleb took it on the chin, didn't even raise his voice. It's part of the game, he said, like he'd been waiting for that shoe to drop. But then came the breakdown. One of our oldest rigs, the same one we'd patched up with borrowed parts and late nights, blew its transmission outside Indianapolis. Driver was stuck, cargo late, and a client threatened to pull the plug. It was our first real test. Caleb didn't blink. He loaded up the spare engine, drove 12 hours straight with a rented trailer, and rebuilt the rig in a mechanic's lot in 36 hours flat. Grease up to his elbows, back sore, fingers bleeding. When I showed up, he was underneath the truck, singing to himself, sweat dripping off his chin. You're enjoying this, I said. He grinned. Feels like I'm fixing something that stays fixed. We didn't lose the contract. The client, impressed by the turnaround, doubled their order. That's the thing about rebuilding. You stop expecting easy wins. You start measuring success by survival, by the work, not the reward. Erin kept the bookstore running like a heartbeat. She started a Saturday book club that turned into a community circle. Seniors, single moms, high schoolers, all sitting in mismatched chairs, talking about stories. Real ones, fictional ones. All of it maturing in ways social media never understood. Leo started walking, then running, then climbing everything that didn't run away from him. His favorite thing was to sit on my lap in the garage and help me sand wood. Erin worried about the dust. I told her I'd keep him out of trouble. I lied. He once glued a screwdriver to my boot. Still haven't gotten it off. Caleb came in one night with dirt on his jeans and a look in his eye I recognized. It was the same look he had when he told me he wanted to buy his first import lot, like a man with an idea too big to hold in one breath. What if we open another hub, he asked. I paused mid-bite into a cold sandwich. Another hub? Small. South Carolina, maybe. 2 trucks, a dispatch desk, that's it. You ready for that? He looked at me. I think we already are. And he was right. We'd hit 12 regular contracts. Repeat clients. Word was spreading. We bought 2 more trucks, hired a guy Caleb knew from his early days in Miami. A Cuban kid named Tavo who drove like he was allergic to red lights. Caleb said Tavo was loyal and mean in traffic. I said that was exactly what we needed. Tavo brought in 2 more drivers. Brothers. We trained them in a week. No BS. No PowerPoints. Just grease, patience, and a checklist taped to the dash. The South Carolina hub opened with 0 fanfare. Just a lockbox, 2 cots, and a wall calendar. But by Christmas, it was turning profit. Lauren sent Caleb a Christmas card. Just a photo. Her, alone on a beach somewhere. No words. He showed it to me, then tossed it in the fire. That chapter's ashes, he said. The rest of that winter passed like a slow song. Quiet mornings. Hard work. Coffee with oil stains on the mug. And slowly, without saying it out loud, I started to believe we'd actually done it. We hadn't just survived her, we'd outrun her. Then came the wedding. Not ours. Caleb and Erin didn't want another ceremony, no guests, no stage. Said they were already married in all the ways that mattered. But Tavo, he proposed to his girlfriend, a nurse named Yessie, and insisted the whole crew come to the wedding. It was in a small Catholic church near the coast, the kind of place that still had wooden pews and fans instead of AC. Caleb stood up front in a short-sleeved shirt, Leo on his hip, Erin beside him, glowing in that way people do when their storms are finally behind them. After the vows, they played salsa music in the parking lot. Tavo's uncle grilled pork on a pit he'd welded together. Yessie's family brought coolers of tamales and beer. Erin danced barefoot with Leo in the grass. Caleb leaned on the hood of our old rig, arms crossed, smiling like a man who'd finally come home. You look happy, I said. I am, he replied. Then he turned to me. You ever think about disappearing? I raised an eyebrow. You planning to vanish? Not like that. Just pulling back. Letting this run on its own. You ready to trust it? He nodded. It's not about trust. It's about time. Leo's growing. Aaron's got plans for the store. And me? I think I want to build something slower. Slower. That was a word I never expected from my son. He used to chase time like it owed him money. Now he wanted to slow down and watch it pass. That night, he handed me a folded paper. What's this? A deed, he said. To the shop. It's yours now. I laughed. You giving me my own job? You've earned it. You sure? He clapped a hand on my shoulder. Nobody else I trust with it. I didn't say anything. Just nodded, looked down at that paper, and realized I'd been chasing something too. Not wealth. Not revenge. Just purpose. And here it was. Right in my hands. 2 months later, Caleb and Aaron bought a small patch of land 5 miles out of town. Built a house with their own hands. No contractors, no architects. Just sweat, tape measures, and late-night pizza. Leo helped paint the mailbox. Mostly his own face. And me? I run the shop now. We've got 12 rigs, 3 hubs, no debt, and a crew that shows up on time, works hard, and eats more than we can afford to feed them on Fridays. But I wouldn't trade it for all the yachts in Miami. Lauren's name hasn't come up in months. She's off the radar now. No social posts. No press. Last I heard, she was waitressing in Fort Lauderdale, telling anyone who'd listen that she used to be married to a billionaire. You know what they don't tell you about second chances? They're quiet. There's no spotlight. No dramatic music. Just a slow morning, a familiar smile, a truck that starts on the first try. That's what Caleb had now. A life built on small victories. By spring, Lion Hall was running like a well-oiled rig. The shop I ran handled maintenance, dispatches, and payroll. Caleb kept a loose eye on the books, but his hands were full with Leo, house projects, and Aaron's growing list of bookstore events. One Saturday, Aaron asked Caleb to read to the kids group at story hour. He said no at first. Said he wasn't good with crowds. Said he didn't want the attention. She just smiled. It's 15 kids and a plush frog. Not exactly Broadway. He caved. I watched from the back corner of the shop, arms folded, trying not to grin like an idiot. Caleb sat in the middle of a circle, reading Where the Wild Things Are, and doing voices. Actual voices. Leo clapped every time he growled. Afterward, a little girl asked, "Are you the man who used to be on TV?" Caleb looked at Aaron. Then he knelt and said, "No, I'm just the guy who drives the trucks now." And that was the first time I saw him fully let go of who he used to be. That spring, Aaron's store expanded, bought the space next door, knocked out the wall, added a coffee corner and a reading loft. We all helped with the build-out. Even Leo, who insisted on painting every surface he could reach, whether it needed it or not. We built benches out of old pallet wood. Put in light fixtures Caleb and I salvaged from a shut-down bowling alley. Aaron cried when it was done. Happy tears. She said it finally felt like hers. That's what this life was now ours. One morning in May, a black SUV rolled into the lot. Out stepped a man in a sharp suit and shoes that had never seen dirt. He had the kind of face you forget on purpose, slick, polished, corporate. He asked for Caleb by name. I stepped outside, wiped my hands on a rag, and said, "Who's asking?" He smiled like a politician. Just someone with a business opportunity. Caleb came out a minute later, wiping grease off his forearm. "You lost." "Not at all," the man said, holding out a card. "We've been following your work. The new company. The branding. You've built a lot, fast." "We've built it honest," Caleb said. "Which is why we're interested. There's a logistics firm in Nashville. Wants to buy out your routes. Fold you into something bigger." Caleb didn't take the card. "Not interested. You haven't even heard the number." "I don't need the number." The man's smile thinned. "You could be rich again." "I've done rich," Caleb said. Didn't like the side effects. The man finally looked at me. "You his business manager?" "I'm his father," I said. "Which means I'm the guy who'll walk you off this property if you don't get in that SUV in 10 seconds. He left. No drama. Just a taillight disappearing down the road. That night, Aaron asked Caleb if he was tempted. He shook his head. "If they want what we have, it means we're doing something right. Which also means we're not done building." She kissed him. Sometimes, that's the whole reward right there. In June, Tavo called from the South Carolina hub. Said he had 2 new drivers lined up and a warehouse manager who used to run logistics for a chain of grocery stores. Caleb greenlit the hires and offered a small ownership stake in that hub. We're not franchising, he said. We're empowering. I laughed. You've been reading Erin's books. He nodded. She made me read one called Leaders Eat Last. How was it? Boring, but smart. That's how Lion Hall grew. Not fast, not flashy, just smart. Local by local, person by person. Every driver knew Caleb's story. Every mechanic knew mine. Nobody asked for much. We just worked. And in that work, there was pride. One stormy evening, I was closing up the shop when I saw headlights through the rain. A woman stepped out of a beat-up sedan. Hood up, coat soaked, eyes locked on me like she wasn't sure what year it was. It was Lauren. She looked older, leaner, tired in a way that didn't wash off. She didn't speak until she was under the awning. I'm not here for money, she said. Good, I said, because none of it's yours. She looked at the shop, the lights, the rigs parked out back. He really rebuilt it, she said. No, he built something new. Her eyes welled up, but no tears fell. I lost everything, she said. You sold everything, I corrected. Lost implies you were trying to hold on to it. She nodded slowly, as if she'd been expecting that line and still wasn't ready to hear it. Can I talk to him? I looked her dead in the eyes. No. She didn't argue, just stood there in the rain like she had nowhere else to be. I ruined it, she said. All of it. Yes, I said. You did. She nodded again, turned, walked back to her car, and drove off. I told Caleb the next morning. He didn't react, just kept cleaning a carburetor. She wanted to see you, I said. She already did, he replied. And that was the end of it. Really, truly the end. By summer, Leo was speaking full sentences. Erin swore his first real phrase was, Papa fix truck. Caleb swore it was, more snack now. Either way, the kid had timing. On the 4th of July, the whole town showed up at the shop. We parked the rigs in a V formation like a backdrop, set up folding tables, coolers, a stage for the local band. Erin made lemonade that could kill a hangover in 3 sips. Tavo roasted a whole pig. Someone brought fireworks. Caleb gave a short speech. Just a thank you. No notes. No ego. Then he said something I'll never forget. This company wasn't built on money. It was built on the absence of it. On sweat. On time. On second chances. And I know we're not done, but I just want to say, this feels like winning. Everyone clapped. Some cried. Me? I just watched my son, standing next to the woman who loved him when he had nothing, holding a kid who knew nothing of the life we'd left behind. August came with heat thick enough to chew. The kind that makes metal sweat and tempers run thin. Even the shop dog, a half-blind mutt we'd taken in and named Diesel, gave up by noon and laid belly down on the concrete floor like the rest of us owed him rent. Caleb was on the roof of Hub 2, shirt off, sunburn setting in, fixing a busted AC unit with 2 ratchets and pure stubbornness. I told him to call a pro. He said he was the pro. By the time he climbed down, the unit was humming like a happy drunk and his skin looked like it had been seasoned. You're gonna peel like drywall, I warned. He shrugged. Better than paying some HVAC guy $2,000 to do it wrong. That was Caleb now, practical, lean, and allergic to shortcuts. Erin handed him aloe and a kiss. Leo pointed at his dad's back and said, Red. That evening, Caleb sat on the porch, iced tea in hand, legs stretched out, watching Leo chase Diesel through the yard. The trees rustled like applause. He looked at me and said, I don't want to grow this any bigger. I raised an eyebrow. Lion Hall. Yeah, it's good now. Any bigger, and I'll be back in meetings, not under hoods. You sure? He nodded. I don't need more. I need this. I understood. Growth was a disease in his old life. Relentless, always demanding more. Now, it was just a tool, not a god. Instead of expansion, we focused on solidifying. Updated equipment. Better benefits for drivers. Erin created a literacy fund for employees' kids. We even got the town to approve a mural on the side of the shop, painted by local students, full of lions, trucks, and books. It was ridiculous and perfect. Then came the surprise. One morning, Erin handed Caleb a wrapped box. No occasion, she said. Just open it. Inside was a little baby onesie, white with blue lettering. Co-driver coming soon. He stared at it, silent. Then he laughed. Laughed so hard he had to sit down. Leo clapped like it was a show. I just stood there grinning. Guess we better build another crib. That night, Caleb walked out to the garage and just stood there, looking around. You think I deserve all this? He asked. No, I said. But you earned it. Every nail. Every sleepless night. Every wrong turn you corrected. He nodded. I used to think revenge was the point. That burning her down was the win. And now? Now I think this. He swept a hand toward the house, the garage, the sounds of Leo laughing inside. This is what it was always about. Not winning. Just rebuilding. The next few months passed in a steady rhythm. Summer bled into fall. Aaron's belly grew. Leo started preschool. Lionhall stayed stable. Then one morning, a certified letter showed up at the shop. It was from a media company. They wanted rights to Caleb's story. A documentary. Streaming platform. Big names attached. Big check promised. Caleb read it twice. Then tossed it in the trash. Not for sale, he said. That could have been the end of it. But nothing ever stays buried for long. 3 weeks later, a leaked Doka series trailer dropped on YouTube. It wasn't from us. It wasn't accurate. But it was slick. Interviews with people who never met Caleb. Footage scraped from old press events. Narration twisted for drama. The title? Billionaire to Broke. The Man Who Gave It All Away. Lauren made an appearance. Face blurred, voice disguised, but unmistakable. Said she escaped a toxic marriage. Claimed she was manipulated into silence. I saw red. Caleb didn't say a word. Just sat there, eyes dark. Next morning, he called Lucian. The journalist who'd exposed Lauren the first time was now running an independent media platform. No ads. No fluff. Just facts. I want to do one interview, Caleb said. Just one. Then I disappear again. Lucian flew in that week. We set up in the shop, grease stains on the floor, trucks humming in the background. Aaron made coffee. Leo watched from the steps. The interview was calm. No drama. Just truth. Caleb talked about the diagnosis, the betrayal, the fall, the rebuild. But mostly, he talked about freedom. Not the kind you buy, the kind you earn. When Lucian asked what he wanted people to learn, Caleb said, that failure isn't the end. That betrayal doesn't define you. And that losing everything might be the best way to find yourself. After the interview went viral, people started showing up. Not fans, clients. Small businesses, nonprofits. Even school districts looking for reliable haulers who weren't trying to squeeze them with fine print and inflated rates. Caleb took the calls himself. If he liked what he heard, he sent a truck. If not, he politely passed. We didn't change our prices. Didn't add tiers. Just added routes where they made sense and hired when we needed. We picked up contracts in 3 new counties. Tavo's brother took over the 3rd hub. Aaron handled payroll for all sites now, using a beat-up laptop that could have been a toaster in a past life. Leo started preschool full-time. Aaron was due in 3 weeks. Everything was running. Then the tires got slashed. 3 trucks. Same night. All parked at the back lot. 14 tires total. Nothing stolen. No tags. Just a quiet message. I checked the cameras. Blurry figures in hoodies, fast-moving, clean exit. Too clean for some punk kids. Caleb and I reviewed the footage at 1:30 a.m. Cups of black coffee in hand. Rain tapping on the windows. I don't think this is random, he said. Neither do I said. He didn't say her name, but we both thought it. The next morning, Caleb filed a police report, then replaced all the tires himself. Didn't ask for help. Took him 8 hours. He showed up to dinner with grease on his neck and no appetite. The following week, a shipping delay hit Hub 2. Manifest got changed mid-run. Load rerouted to the wrong warehouse. Cost us $5,000 in penalties and a pissed-off client. Tavo called that night. This is sabotage, man. Somebody's targeting us. I know, Caleb said. I'm working on it. He wasn't bluffing. He'd already hired someone. A private investigator. Guy named Briggs, ex-military, no nonsense. He worked fast. Traced the shipping interference back to a former Lionhall dispatcher. One we let go 4 months ago for taking kickbacks. Only problem? She didn't have the brains to orchestrate this. But she did have a new job. Working for a boutique logistics startup in West Palm Beach. A new company. One with a shiny website, 5 trucks, and a CEO who hadn't shown her face publicly, but whose corporate filings listed the founder as L. Monroe. Lauren. Caleb looked at the report from Briggs, jaw tight. She really built a copy of my company, he said. Correction, I said. She built a bad copy. It wasn't about money. Not anymore. It was about trying to erase him. Replace him. And now, she was playing dirty. We shut it down, I said. Full stop. No lawsuits, Caleb said. No press. Quiet. Clean. Then we bleated out. He nodded. Let's take back the routes. We mapped her contracts. Same counties. Same clients. Same pricing structure, but with fewer drivers, longer delays, and a growing pile of customer complaints. We made calls. Sent trucks. Offered reliability. Clients started flipping back to us within days. One by one. Aaron's belly grew. Our routes expanded. We didn't undercut Lauren's company. We outworked it. Day and night. On time. No excuses. Then we got the break. One of her drivers quit mid-route and called us directly. Said he hadn't been paid in weeks. Said he'd been promised equity, then got an expired gas card instead. We hired him the next day. Then another one called. Then two more. Within a month, Lauren's startup was down to one truck, no dispatcher, and 3 lawsuits from unpaid vendors. Briggs handed Caleb the final report with a smirk. She's out of money. Out of drivers. IRS is sniffing. It's a wrap. Caleb nodded. Let her sink. That was it. No final blow. No last warning. Just silence. Lauren's website went offline 2 weeks later. Company dissolved. No statement. No closure. Just gone. 2 days after that, Erin went into labor. She had the baby in the back of the shop, because of course she did. Storm blew through, power went out, ambulance got stuck, and Erin refused to wait. Caleb delivered his own daughter on an old cot, with Diesel barking in the corner, and me holding a flashlight like it was war. They named her June. She came out loud, eyes open, already trying to grab things. 3 weeks later, she smiled for the first time. Erin said she had Caleb's grin. He said she had her mother's fight. Either way, she was here now. And nothing else mattered. June didn't sleep through the night for the first 2 months. Which meant neither did Caleb. He tried every trick. Bottle feeding, white noise, car rides at 2 a.m. in the rusted Tacoma. Erin handled it like she'd done it 3 lifetimes ago. Caleb looked like he'd been chewed up by time and spit out with coffee breath. You look like death, I told him one morning. I feel worse, he grumbled, rocking the carrier with one foot while trying to change an air filter with both hands. Still, he didn't complain. Not once. He just adapted, like he always did. Leo adjusted too. Went from being the only kid to big brother overnight. His favorite phrase became, "She's making that face again," right before June would scream like she was trying to warn the village about incoming wolves. But there was something different about this stretch of exhaustion. It didn't drain Caleb. It shaped him. Before, he was building to escape something. Now, he was building towards something. You could see it in how he talked to the drivers. Less bark, more leadership. In how he handled delays. Less tension, more trust. Even in how he fixed things. Less rush, more precision. That calm didn't come from revenge or profit. It came from being needed. And not by shareholders or fake friends. By people who had his eyes and his name. Fall rolled in slower this time. The shop had its best quarter yet. Our route completion rate was near perfect. The South Carolina hub expanded to cover Georgia. Aaron's bookstore had a 6-month waiting list for events. We hired a full-time manager named Gigi who wore cat-eye glasses and ran the place like it was a warship. Caleb finally took 2 days off in a row. First time in 2 years. We drove out to an old lake he remembered from college. Rented a cabin that smelled like moss and old fishermen. Aaron brought books, Leo brought bugs, and June brought chaos. We didn't talk about business once. Not until the last night, after the kids were asleep and the fire was just embers. Caleb leaned back in his chair and said, "You think this is it?" I gave him a look. "What, the cabin?" "No. Life. This chapter." I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "It's one hell of a chapter. But you've still got pages left." He smirked. That was almost poetic. "You all right?" "Don't get used to it." He sipped his drink. "I keep thinking about how far we came. From hospital beds and lawsuits to this." "Yeah, and it's earned. Every inch of it." He nodded, but his eyes didn't leave the fire. That's when I knew something was coming. He didn't tell me right away. Not until we were back home and the shop had settled into its rhythm. Then he pulled me into the office and laid out the papers. "New hub," he said. "New state." I looked at the header. "Detroit." "Bold move," I said. "They need work. We've got people. It makes sense." "Why there?" He paused. "Because no one expects anything to grow there. And that's exactly where growth matters." I nodded slowly. "You want me to run it?" "No," he said. I'm going. I blinked. Alone. With Aaron and the kids. I stared at him. You're uprooting again? It's not about escape. It's about planting seeds where they're needed. I leaned back. So what happens here? You run this shop. Tavo runs South Carolina. We bring in 2 new dispatchers. Aaron's already training them. I let out a slow breath. You've been planning this for months. He nodded. And you didn't tell me because I needed to know if it would hold without me. I didn't like it, but I understood it. And to be honest, part of me was proud. Caleb wasn't running anymore. He was expanding, not for greed, but for purpose. Detroit wasn't about proving anything. It was about rebuilding again, somewhere that needed it. That winter, we threw a send-off party in the back lot. The rigs were lined up like soldiers. Diesel wore a scarf. Aaron made chili that nearly killed 2 of our mechanics. Tavo gave a speech in bad English and worse Spanish. And Leo got so many hugs he declared himself full of friends. Caleb handed me a ring of keys. You don't work for me anymore, he said. Oh yeah. Nope. We're partners now. 50-50. I looked at the keys. Then at him. I was already in it, I said. I know, he replied. But now it's official. The next morning, they packed the Tacoma, strapped June into a car seat that looked like a race car, and headed north. No big goodbye. Just a hug, a handshake, and a smile from Aaron that said, we'll be back. I watched the taillights until they vanished down the road. Then I turned and opened the shop. Just like every other day. Only now it was mine too. The first thing Caleb did in Detroit was nothing. No press. No permits. No big announcement. Just rented a 1-story brick building near the edge of a warehouse district. Cheap. Empty. Forgotten. 1 office. 2 bays. Gravel lot. Fence with chain link. It used to be a tire shop before the lights went out. He called me the night they moved in. Aaron found a coffee place with real vinyl seats and a jukebox. Nice, I said. Leo find any trouble yet? He's teaching June how to throw apples. Good. Keep it balanced. Then he got serious. This place has bones, he said. Ugly ones. But they're strong. He sent me photos later. Rows of crumbling brick. Tags on walls. Boarded windows. Streets cracked wide enough to swallow a bike. But there were signs of life. An old man running a corner store, a kid fixing BMXs on the sidewalk, a church with hand-painted signs promising free food on Sundays. This wasn't a second chance. It was a first one for people who'd never had the luxury. Caleb hired 3 drivers before the first truck even arrived. All locals. All with stories that didn't fit cleanly on resumes. One had done time. One was a single mom who hadn't driven in 4 years. The last was a guy named Pike, 63, a Vietnam vet with knuckles like gravel and a voice like broken glass. Why these 3? I asked him. Because they need it, he said. Same reason I did. The first month, they only had 1 route. It barely paid the bills. But the second month, they got 3 more. By the 4th, they were running 6 trucks, 3 shifts, and had outgrown the lot. I visited in April. The place was still rough, still loud, still half-painted, and always behind on supplies. But it had movement. The kind of noise that means something's alive. Caleb showed me around like it was a museum. Proud, but practical. This is where the heater died for 3 days, he said. Pointing at a corner where a space heater still Saturday, Pike brought in a Coleman stove to keep the oil warm. He pointed at a row of lockers. She painted those, he said of the single mom. Said the gray was depressing. Now it's orange. He pointed at a bulletin board with clipped job listings and hand-scrawled notes. Babysitting referrals, tutoring offers, ride shares, local mechanics. This is the difference, he said. This board, not the trucks. It hit me then. He wasn't running a logistics company. He was building a damn town inside a town. I stayed 3 nights. Worked the floor, did oil changes, made runs for parts. Had dinner with Aaron and the kids. Listened to Leo tell me about how June tried to eat a rock. Aaron said she stopped her. Leo said it was already halfway in. June just giggled. They were good. Not just surviving. Living. On my last night there, Caleb asked me to take a walk. We went 2 blocks down to an empty lot. Grass up to the ankles. Old soda cans. A mattress half buried near the back fence. This is it, he said. Looks like trash. It's the next hub. I stared at him. No building, I said. No foundation. No power. Not yet. I looked at him. You really gonna do it? Yeah, he said. But not for profit. Not this time. He told me his plan. A vocational site. Half shop, half school. Not just haulers, technicians, dispatchers, welders, mechanics. All trained on site. Paid as they learned. Hired on the spot. Free to the neighborhood. Run by the community. You're turning Lion Hall into a damn trade school, I said. He nodded. I shook my head and grinned. Never thought I'd say this, but you're better broke. He laughed. When I got back home, the shop felt the same. But I didn't. We had 3 new rigs, a new admin, and our first branded van for local deliveries. I was hiring a new night crew. Tavo had just expanded into Chattanooga. And the mural? It got finished. It now had a second lion, smaller, standing beside the first one. A little cub with its paw raised. I never asked who added it. I didn't need to. We got one last letter from Lauren. This one was official, typed, signed, notarized. She was filing for bankruptcy. The kind that doesn't get you out of everything. Just ends the bleeding. It came with a note, handwritten at the bottom. You won. Hope it was worth it. Caleb didn't answer. He didn't need to. Winning wasn't the point. Outlasting was. The kind of win that didn't show up on headlines or tax returns. Just showed up in full fridges, full cribs, and the sound of diesel engines starting on time. By the end of that year, Caleb's Detroit shop was training 10 apprentices a month. Aaron opened a second bookstore across from the new hub. Leo joined a t-ball team. Got ejected from a game for arguing with an umpire. Caleb said he was proud. June took her first step in the office. Fell immediately. Got up laughing. And me? I stayed right where I was. The shop. The tools. The drivers. It was mine now. Not because Caleb gave it to me, but because I showed up. Every day. Through the storm. Through the rebuild. Through the quiet. One morning, I came in to find a package on my desk. No note. Inside was a frame. Cheap wood, old glass. Inside the frame, the first invoice we ever filed at Lion Hall. Client name, date, route, 2 trucks, handwritten signature, paid in full. And at the bottom, one line, start small, finish loud. I hung it on the wall next to the time clock. Nobody asked. They just looked at it, nodded, and went to work. Just the way we like it.